Big one, obviously tomorrow. You've seen this rivalry throughout the years. Clearly, this seems like it's a different level. How proud are you of the state and what it's grown into on a basketball court?
It's phenomenal. I mean, because I think the thing about this game tomorrow is that it is really the first time, even for all the success that both programs have had recently, it's the first time that the widespread interest has gone past the state borders and certainly outside the conference geographical footprint. This is the talk of college basketball. And you don't get that just from having great players and great stars, because this rivalry has had that for as long as I can remember. All you guys are much younger than I am, but I remember Leon Douglas and Reggie King and Mike Mitchell and Fast Eddie Johnson at Auburn to Chuck and Chuck Person, Derek McKee, Antonio McDyess, Robert Ory. It's had stars and it's produced great players. What this has now done has become relevant and resonating across the sport because of excellence. And combined, they've won 6 of the last 8 SEC championships. They've both been to the Final Four within the last 5 tournaments. So I think it's a really cool thing to show that the silliest question in the world is, are you a football school or a basketball school or a baseball school, whatever? You can just win. Nothing about one sport stops you from being successful, and the other one assuming that you have the requisite financial backing, and both of these programs do, and it's really a good thing for the state.
As far as the conference goes, I mean, like the Big East did in the 80s, not only did they have good coaches, they were personalities and they were stars. You look across the SEC now, whether it be Bruce or Nate or Rick Barnes or Cal, I mean, how important is it that these SEC institutions have superstar head coaches?
I think it's a really big deal because they're the constant, right? And you left out Buzz Williams, who's going to be on our show, College GameDay, 9 a.m. Central Time tomorrow. Don't want to miss that. But there are a lot of personalities in here, and I think it's one of the things that that certainly is not new at Alabama. I mean, they made the court plaid for a while, for Wimp, and he understood the ability for the constant in the program, the head coach, to have a personality that would draw people in to watch. And I do think that with the, get philosophical here, but the glut of media that we have now, something's on, sports on all the time, that if you have guys and personalities, people who can cut through, it makes a really big difference. And I think you have that in a number of these coaches, whether it's Bruce's personality or Nate's style of play combined with personality, all of those types of things, I think help cut through.
Is there any comparison you can draw, just looking back at the history of SEC basketball, maybe the history of this rivalry with, a situation like a guy like Aiden Holloway going from one side to the other, and just, I guess how does that add to maybe the scope of this game and how the teams approach it?
I hope I have my date right when I say this. I think it'll be a much bigger deal on March 8th than it is tomorrow. When he goes back and plays in Neville Arena, he's going to hear it, and that's part and parcel of the rivalry. I was thinking about this. I do believe it's the first basketball player to do it. He is certainly the most high-profile, most highly recruited athlete to change over, because typically, when you either are born or arrive in this state, you typically look up and you either see crimson and white or you see orange and blue, and you pick a side and you don't change. But there have been football players, there have been a few football players who've done it. I think the wide receiver's name when I was in school here, I think it was Daryl Thomas, could be wrong about that. Somebody should use Grok or something and fact check me. But there was a wide receiver who came and played at Alabama. He didn't play a lot, but he'd started his career at Auburn. And even recently, Nick had a running back who left here and went to Auburn and had some success. Corey, who's from Opelika, was it Gaines? Grant. Corey Grant. Good call. Corey Grant, who had some success, and speed sweep guy, for Gus. So there have been some, and I think there was even a guy who left last year, a DB or something. So there have been some guys who crossed over, but no one with the profile that Aiden had coming out of high school and getting off to the start that he got off to at Auburn. But I think Bruce has handled that, in a very classy fashion in the way he's talked about it. I think Aiden's been classy in the way he's handled it. In fact, the matter is, probably from a stylistic standpoint, this system fits him really, really well. Not that he couldn't have been successful at Auburn, he would have been. but he made a change and it's worked out well for everybody. Auburn seems to be doing fine too. The way it looks to me.
I know you're impartial, but you are an alumnus of Alabama. What was it like for you watching the team finally break through and get to the Final Four?
I haven't shared this a lot because I don't, you get enough criticism doing this business. You don't need to bring any on yourself. But I was telling some guys earlier today because I saw my first game in this, the first time I was ever in this building, I saw Elvis Presley in 1971. So it was the first time I was ever in the building. I was 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. But the next time I was here was some of the great teams that CM Newton had in Alabama, and I came regularly to see the games. And I was a devout follower of Alabama basketball. I can still tell you T.R. Dunn, Anthony Murray, Reggie King, Leon Douglas, Greg McGelvin, Robert Chapman, guys who were on teams in the 70s, right? So I've followed this a long time. And while I was in school here, there were so many great teams that probably should have or could have made the Final Four and didn't. They ran into Michael Jordan. This was before I was in school here. They ran into Michael Jordan's championship team in '82. They ran into Billy Donovan, Rick Pitino in '87 when I was in school here. So you'd wondered if it was ever going to happen. And when it did happen last year, now typically you get spoiled when you're in the jobs that we're in, and Julie, our PR person, can tell you because we don't have rights to the NCAA tournament, the Final Four. We have the crappiest seats you can possibly imagine that they put us. They put us so far away from the court, you can't really see the game, right? There's really no point in going, and a lot of times I don't. But last year, when Alabama was in the Final Four, I was like, no, I'm going in the building and I'm going to see this. I only was able to stay the first half because I had to go back and work. But I was like, I'm going to go in that building and actually see this happen. And so it was really cool. It was an unbelievable accomplishment. Or actually, I say unbelievable, not with that dude you got as a head coach here. That won't be the last time that happens as long as he's here. So it was really quite an accomplishment, though.
You said last year you really believed that Nate Oates would get Alabama to a Final Four. I was hoping that you would say, can you really believe that Nate Oates will get Alabama a basketball national championship?
There are 3 teams in the SEC that, in my judgment, I'm sure someone else can. They can catch lightning in a bottle and go and win it. But there are 3 teams in the SEC equipped to win the national championship. 2 of them will play here tomorrow, and the other one's Florida. So they can do it. It's a question of will they. I do think, all complete honesty, the best team I've seen this year is Auburn. I think they're the best team I've seen from start to finish. Doesn't mean they're not unbeatable, as Florida proved. It was one of those rare occasions when they played Duke and Cameron Indoor, and I think Duke's exceptional. Duke's way better now than they were that night. But you finish watching the game and you go, yeah, I know Duke won. I think Auburn's better than them. And so this is a high level team. And so is Alabama. So Alabama can win the national championship for sure. But that's not going to be an easy task for whoever does it, because just look at the rest of Alabama's schedule. This feels like some type of championship game tomorrow, and it's going to be approached with that level. And then they turn around and play another ranked team, and another game with Auburn and Florida, and road trip to Tennessee, and I think they go to Missouri. And it's kind of a ridiculous thing. So it's just the next step on a long path, and then the tournament starts. So they're capable, but to win a national championship, you not only have to be capable and excellent, which they are, you also have to have things sort of bounce your way. So hopefully for their sake that'll happen, and we'll see how it plays out.
Rece, you talk about following this from afar since you're in the industry. You usually come in the fall to see what they did for basketball, and then to keep Nate Oates. A lot of rumors about Kentucky. What does that mean about the job Burns done in this program to say Oates is here and this is his program? You see the construction happening with the practice facility. It seems like this is his program.
Hey, look, Greg is as astute, if not the most astute, administrator in college athletics. He understands that it's okay to try to be good in everything and to put resources in places where big results are delivered. And with the results that Nate has delivered during his time here, they've treated him the way they should. I think Greg's done a spectacular job across the board, at Alabama with all sports, but particularly in making sure that Nate has what he needs to continue to be able to attract high-level talent, to be able to train them and develop them in a way which he and his staff are particularly good at. And they need these things, and the new practice facility that they're building, I was just talking to him about it a few minutes ago. They'll spend 90% of their time there. I'm sure everybody at Alabama would like to have a new arena, and someday they will, and that'll be great. But in the meantime, they spend most of their time in a place where they develop themselves as players, and they're giving them the state-of-the-art facility to do that. And I think it shows great commitment, great foresight on Greg's part to be able to make sure that there's no more, you don't move a job for lack of something. That the only reason you would lose a coach, and this is, any coach, not just Nate, the only reason you lose a coach is for some type of personal desire that you can't account for and that you can't fulfill. But otherwise, finances, staffing, recruiting budget, practice facilities, you can do all of that, and they've done a really good job of making sure that he has that.
With how big this game has gotten over the years, do you think it needs a different name at this point than the Iron Bowl of basketball? Or is it still
I don't know how I feel about that to begin with. I'm not sure that I'm on board with the whole Iron Bowl of basketball thing, because, whatever people want to call it's cool, but to me, when you've won as many championships in conference as these two teams have, it kind of stands on their own, and you sort of have that Iron Bowl football connotation, and nothing wrong with that. That's fine, but maybe it doesn't need a name. Maybe you just do it like the Rocky movies, because they're playing twice. We know they might play 3 times, and they could play 4. You never know how things go. So you might as well just put the Roman numerals after it, at least for this season, for as good as these two teams are.
You spend the fall with Nick Saban on Saturdays. Is there anything that you learned from him that has helped you be a better host or just work on your craft for College Game Day?
I think anytime you're around someone who expects excellence of themselves, that you get that feeling that you want to make everything around them as good as you possibly can. I would like to think that I did that before, but I do think that the dynamic that Nick brought has helped us have really different kinds of football conversations on the set than we've had really at any other time. Not that we didn't have great ones, but when you have somebody who's the best to ever do something sitting there on the set with you, then you'd be sort of foolish not to tap into that expertise. So I think the one thing that he's reinforced is the importance of team and working together and doing stuff, and he's an unbelievable teammate. He's obviously was a great coach here, but he stepped in and wanted to learn television, wanted to know why we did things the way we did them, and not in a way like some might expect. Like, why do we do this? It was more like, okay, why this instead of that? Why is this important instead of that? And the guy's a sponge. He's so ridiculously intelligent and soaks stuff up so quickly that that has been really, really beneficial for the show. I called him yesterday to ask him, he's going to get a little video for the show tomorrow because he's out of town, and I could hear him as I was sort of going over with him. I said, you can do whatever you like, but here's sort of the parameters, what we're thinking. I could hear him taking notes, and then he said, okay, you're thinking this, this, and this, and he said, okay, and he said, yeah, I'll get that done. He's just, I've never met anybody quite like him in terms of their ability to focus and to lock in on details and to excel, no matter no matter what environment they're put in. He's already a wildly successful businessman. You know about him as a coach. I think he would have been a brilliant CEO or leader of government or whatever he would have chosen to do. He would have excelled at it because he's just wired that way.
We have time for one more.
You've seen a lot of different environments, college football, college basketball. Can you try to put into words what you think tomorrow will be like at 3 o'clock?
I hope the environment for this is like the very best college basketball has to offer. To me, there's really nothing like Allen Fieldhouse overall. There's nothing like Cameron Indoor Stadium for Duke and Carolina. And I hope that this rises to that level. that the intensity, that the big game feel, and I'm not even talking nasty rivalry stuff, I'm just talking like intensity, emotion, anticipation that something really big, really cool, and really important is happening right there, and everybody wants to get close to it. So I'm hoping that's what we see, and I've got a feeling that is what we'll see. All right, guys. Thank you.